Welcome to the Totally Honest Cooking Show. I'm Mark. Today is Thanksgiving, and every year I make a duck. I roast it, then I cover it in pesto, then I roast it some more. Today I'm going to share my tradition with you for two purposes. One, to show you how to make a pesto duck, and two, because I never remember how I did it last year. I don't know if you've had this experience yet where you make a thing every year, once a year or twice a year, and every time you're like, how'd I do it? I don't remember. And then you got to look it up. So this is where I look it up. And every year, obviously, as a result of that, I change it a little bit, right? So this will be our jumping off point. There will be more iterations of this video as long as the show survives. We'll do it at least once a year, maybe twice. Fun, right? Okay, let's get started. This year, I'm thinking I'm going to use this injector. I used it last year. So last year, I tried to inject the duck with pesto, and that didn't work because pesto will clog up the tube on the injector. So instead, I'm going to make a garlic butter broth sort of thing, and we're going to inject that after I take the garlic out of the broth. That way, it won't clog up. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what we're doing. This is a 5-pound duck. You're going to roast it on 350 degrees for half an hour a pound. So this will be ready in 2.5 hours. We're going to start by preheating our oven to 350 degrees. And we're going to melt a stick of butter. This is slightly more than a stick of butter. That's okay too. And while that's going, I'm going to crush peel and chop my garlic. Now, some of this garlic's been hanging out for a little bit, so it's starting to sprout in the middle. That's fine. If we were serving it raw, you would want to take that out, but we're cooking it, so I'm not worried. And we're just going to fry some of the garlic in here. And now I'm going to add in a little bit of chicken broth. So I added chicken stock to thin the butter out a little bit. And the goal here is to basically prevent it from becoming ghee, right? We don't want to boil the butter and separate it and do all those things. We want something that we can inject and enhance flavor. And we'll see if it works. This would be better if I'd had time to make my own chicken broth, but everything's been on fire lately, so I didn't do that. Now, before we can move much further, we've got to trim our duck fat. So we're going to take the neck off, or the neck fat off. I am probably going to tuck this into the roasting pan just so that we get some nice rendered duck fat. Or I'll just render it on cast iron later. It will all depend, but I'm saving this because it's delicious. All right? So don't throw it out. Don't do it. Then we're going to go around the cavity a little bit. Just get out the extra fat. You don't need it all flappy. If you really want it, stick it in the duck hole. We're almost ready to truss our duck. But first I got an idea. I've never done this before, so stick with me here. These are your giblets. That's the duck neck. That's the kidneys. That's the liver. I don't know what that is. Maybe the heart. I don't know. Anyway, enough of that, right? You don't want this. Get it out of here. You can use the rest of this to make gravy if you want. But this is the liver, and this will taste bitter in gravy or stock. So I'm getting it out of here. Now, I don't do gravy. I do this weird injection thing that we started, right? So I'm just going to get my skillet nice and hot, and then I'm going to sear these a little bit, and then we're going to use them to enhance the flavor in the butter. So I'm just going to throw these in here. And all we're doing here is letting them get a little color. I'm going to probably have to cut the neck down a little bit to fit it in the pan with the butter, but that's okay. As they come off, I'm just dropping them in the butter right there. See? Okay, that's pretty good. Pretty neat. I'm gonna heat this up. See if I can get any of this in there. And just a little bit more broth. Just a little bit more. Okay, that's done in a couple quick minutes. And we're ready to move on. Okay, I'm gonna try for a quick dirty truss on the duck. Now, I'm going to tuck the wings under the rope a little bit. Or at least the tips of the wings under the rope a little bit, with the hopes that that'll help prevent them from burning. We'll see if that actually works in real life. Doesn't appear to be. Now, this is inevitably going to run out as it cooks. It might even run out before I get it in the oven. That's fine. Just means, oops. It just means that that's a whoopsie doodle right there. You know, we'll see how much this works and if it does anything. This injector is metal. If the liquid is hot, it's going to be hot. Keep that in mind. Don't burn yourself. We're going to stick this in for the first hour, like this. Then we're going to flip it. Okay? So strap in. At the end of the first hour, you're going to take it out. We're going to move this for a second. We're going to drain the juices off. Put it back. Then we're going to flip it. Careful not to burn yourself while you flip it. There are other ways to do it, obviously. These gloves made it a little easier there. Now I'm going to cook that for another hour. Next up, we got about half a stick of butter in our food processor. To that, we're going to add a bunch of basil. On top of that, I'm going to pour some extra virgin olive oil. Before I blitz it up, I'm just going to take half a head of garlic. Give it a pounding. Strip everybody. There we go. And pulse. You're going to want to turn it on and add more oil. You're letting it run so that so it's a little less solid. Then you're going to turn it back on and you're going to add 1/4 cup of pine nuts. Push it down if it needs it. Give it another blitz. Now you're free for at least a half an hour to make some other things. I'm gonna go make some yams. Once that time has passed, we're ready to do it again. Once that cools, I'm gonna funnel it through a strainer into a jar along with some cheesecloth, and it should get all the crap out of it, and then I'll be able to use it to fry potatoes and stuff. Now, as for this, I've got my pesto, I got my paintbrush, and we're just gonna paint the bird, right? We're gonna paint the bird. But you want to get that butter and that oil all over that bird. It'll take care of the rest of the color over the next half hour. Now you're gonna do it on the other side. And you're just gonna really paint it. Leave nothing uncovered. Feel free to pour it right over the top like some sort of psycho. Try to get the sides too. It's a little hard to get the sides, but just do the best you can. So I'm gonna stick this back in for half an hour. Once it's this beautiful golden color, pull it out. Make sure you check your thermometer to make sure that it's the right temperature. Don't poison anybody or anything like that. Okay, I'm gonna go finish my sides and go have Thanksgiving. Like, subscribe, click that little bell, and I'll see you next time.